Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jerry Sansing coming back with another edition of South Texas News and Reviews. I'm going to be talking mostly about educational institutions around South Texas here for a little bit, and I think I've got enough seconds here on the banner, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take my trip to the seat here and make it as quick as I can. Got a lot to talk about this evening. And as I said, welcome to South Texas News and Reviews. And I really do want to discuss the problems that we have with the South Texas, at least two of the community colleges around here. One I've made real happy up there in Beeville, Texas. That's the Coastal Bend College. It used to be B County College, so if I say B County, I'm a creature of habit, I guess. But I really would like to let you know of some stuff, and then I've got my favorite down here, which is my employer, Del Mar College. And there's some things that are going on, folks, that I think that you taxpayers out there need to know. Let me give you a little background. I've been asked lately, why I do this and so forth and so on. I work real hard for my money, and I try to give Del Mar College its all. And my background is something that people want to know about, and they say, well, how can you preach about this, that, and the other? Well, let me just give you a little bit of my personal history, and maybe that'll enlighten you a little bit. Now, this is not meant to be egotistical and braggadocious and so forth and so on. It's just I worked my butt off from the time I was about 16, 17 years old. I was stationed overseas or our family was, in Athens, Greece. There were not enough Americans over there to have an on-post or a base school, which most of the military has, Army, Navy, Air Force, and so forth. But we were farmed out, essentially, to a private British school that was there in Athens, Greece. Now, folks, let me tell you what, if you want a real experience in getting your butt kicked and having academics crammed down your throat, then why don't you pack your kids up and ship them over to England to a British school, or go back. I think that British-run school is still there in Athens, Greece after all these years. But, they held my feet to the fire and my nose to the grindstone, so to speak, and my parents enjoyed that, folks. I got the stuffings kicked out of me academically. But it was a learning experience, and I said, there's more to education than just having a good time and going out and playing soccer, football, baseball, and so forth and so on, which is what I unfortunately see here in the States a lot. And then we have schools where parents are afraid to, teachers are afraid to challenge students and so forth because the parents of the students are over there threatening to sue them and all this other good garbage. So I decided to go into academics, okay? So, and I was real interested in the research business. So I attended college. When I graduated, I had two majors, both chemistry and biology. In that process, taking the biology classes, I learned that microorganisms in particular are extremely adept, and they've got to be the best chemists in the universe, okay? They can perform some stunts that human beings, I don't think, have full comprehension of these days. So I went to graduate school, and I started out as a straight PhD student. My major professor asked me if I would go ahead and write up my a publication that I did on a research fellowship there. It was straight research. I wasn't interested in teaching at the time or anything else. I just wanted to go in and rattle test tubes. So I finished a master's degree with double majors, biochemistry and microbiology, and then I finished the PhD at the same institution with the same two majors, microbiology and biochemistry. And then I was awarded a postdoctoral position, which was straight research, at the Northern Regional Research Lab. That's the USDA facility there in Peoria, Illinois. And I spent 2 years there, and I had a joint postdoc with the University of Illinois Medical School branch there in Peoria, and I was straight research. And then after that, since I couldn't stay at Peoria because of the economics with the government at that time, I would love to have stayed. That was the mecca of antibiotic research and microbial toxin research. But I moved on into private industry, which was straight research. And then later in life, I decided to leave all the fun and games with the research business and search for something else, and wound up down here teaching after teaching a year in San Antonio at a community college, St. Philip's College. I wound up here in 1989. I can't believe I've had this much fun at Del Mar College. And here I am, and I have never regretted that, and I have, I enjoy it, folks. I love to see the look on students' face when the light finally comes on, and then when they graduate and they say, hey, I can go out and make some money for a change. Now, I've seen some horrible things go on at Del Mar College, which I have said over the years. I don't know how many years I've been doing this show. I'm afraid to go back and look and see when the first one aired. But it's been, well over 10, maybe 15 years. So I've been trying to convince people that, there is something better than just floundering around at a menial job that you really don't want. And what you have to do is to encourage students to go out and learn what they need to learn. And the first thing they need to learn, and hopefully in the grade schools and through high school, are the basics of things. And then if they decide to go into college, then they need to have courses in the first 2 years that are designed to teach them the very basics of these different disciplines that they are going to pursue. Now, education has come around to the point now where everything can be done on a computer. We had a vice president at Del Mar that has moved on, and I'll just say it out loud, I'm glad he's gone, okay? And what horrified me was the man would preach that you should have students in control and that students should be able to formulate and order their educations just like they can order a custom hamburger in the fast food lane over at McDonald's. And then he was known to be hanging out at Starbucks all the time, sleeping and laying around with a laptop computer on his chest. And he was very rarely at Del Mar College. I could see his parking spot from where my office suite is. So I was very disappointed. But I think what threw me into great horror one day was he did this. He held up an iPhone. I'm an antique with an old flip phone here. But he held one of these things up and he said, "This is a professor of the future." Now, if you take all of the personal interaction out of a coursework and so forth and so on, folks, and you start trying to treat it like you are going to be a golly gee whiz, as I call it, type of course, and I'm going to discuss that a little bit later. We've got that going on at Del Mar College, which horrifies me, and students aren't learning the basics. And, we've got these unproven statistics where they poll a student and say, well, if you've got this research activity going on in the laboratories, do you think you're a much better student for that? And they, of course, are going to say yes. But what we're doing is we're downplaying, and we're not providing all students with the golly gee whiz classes. And as far as I'm concerned, they don't work at the freshman and sophomore level. If you want to get into research in undergraduate school, and I did a little bit of that was in my junior and senior year, okay? Now, I'm told that I don't know anything about research. I mean, I don't know how I missed all of that with a straight research activity going on. And then after I got to Del Mar, there was a company out here that everybody knows about. It was called Celanese. It was bought out by Herbst out of Germany. So it was known as Herc Celanese, and they approached me and asked me if I would conduct some consulting and do some research for them out there in some of their processes. And I said, no, I'm not really, wild about getting back into a straight research position. I'm enjoying the teaching, but if you'd like to give me a grant and put some money up, then I'll go ahead and run some basic research problems with some students and pay them to do that as student assistants. and it worked very well. Now, those research projects that we did were not a routine nature. They were straight basic research in which you're looking for new processes and new means to do things. It wasn't one of these golly gee whiz, let's repeat this same thing with a different organism 850,000 times and call it research. So for those of you over there at Del Mar College that are convinced that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, then I'll be glad to provide you with an extensive resume, and you can see how much research I did. And this was new research. This wasn't taking a set of techniques and running the same thing over and over and over again with no, just using a different microorganism or a different virus. And that, to me, is not research. So when I'm told that we need to institute research into these programs over there, then I get a little goosey. Now, another thing that bothers me is, and I can document this for anybody that wants the publication that went out on the airways, I'm told that since I do not teach with a golly gee whiz research component in all of my classes, then I'm mediocre and substandard, that traditional classes are far inferior to all this golly gee whiz garbage that goes on. Okay? So for all of you students out there, I will caution you, you better make sure that you've taken a class with the very basics. And then they call some of the people over there that are pushing golly gee whiz courses, they say, well, we need to have you in here doing research. Well, some of the people over there I found out couldn't spell research. I mean, I'll compare my resume to anybody at Del Mar College when it comes to straight basic research in the sciences, and let's see what happens. Now, there are two professors, one of them is adjunct and the other one is full-time now, that came out of the Herx-Celanese. They're both fantastic chemists. Okay? One's actually a chemical engineer, PhD, and the other's a PhD organic chemist. And then we've got a faculty member that was in the research business out there for a while at Herx-Celanese, and she's a PhD organic chemist. So I don't know where this comes from that we've got to be golly gee whiz, but I just wanted to put that straight, and if I've got time at the end of this, I'll discuss it. But students, make sure that you're going to do the quote cookbook, is what this called over there, basic experiments, so that you'll know how to handle things and you'll know the techniques. And let's not worry too much about looking for fungal systems in Apollo mission substances. I don't know what that meant. That's the way this one of these golly gee whiz courses was advertised. The only thing I know that would come back as far as fungi are concerned from outer space would be maybe one of the astronauts' athlete's foot fungus or something. So I'm not so sure I understand what that big ad was to solicit students into a golly gee whiz class. Okay? All right, now, that's my spiel with Del Mar College, my employer. I'm having a hard time understanding why taxpayers will not go out and vote some decent people in for either a board of trustees up at Coastal Bend College or here in Corpus Christi, Texas at Del Mar College. It just astounds me. Now, another admission I'm going to make, if you didn't already know, is I am the president of the Corpus Christi Taxpayers Association. Okay, so that puts me into wanting to protect my interest as a taxpayer and the taxpayers' interest in general of this community. And I'm going to go over some stuff that's happened at Del Mar College and a little bit at Coastal Bend, because I do know this show is very well watched in B County up there by through the fact that this is on YouTube. So all you have to do, if you want it on YouTube and not wait for the public access to come on, then all you have to do is put my name, Gerald Sansing, in when you get into YouTube, and South Texas News and Reviews will crop up. And this one is March the 15th of 2015. Okay. Now I've just happened to have a copy of the Beeville Bee Picayune It's a newspaper. This was the edition that came out on February 25th. And what I have done is I'm trying to figure out at Coastal Bend College why there's so many people who have been relieved of their teaching duties up there and other duties as employees, and why there is no tenure system up there for professors, and why we have a president up there who is likes to use the axe and just go ahead and fire people and treat people like garbage. Okay? So I have blown the whistle up there after a real good friend of mine. She was the director of nursing up there, Dr. Eloisa Garcia, and she was fired for some mundane reason, and they never did this board of regents up there. I think that all but two of them, maybe three, are crazy as loons up there, and they'll do anything that they want. This female president up there, Dr. Beatrice Espinosa, wants done. Okay, it's I hate to equate it to Nazi Germany, but it's close. Okay, now what I did was I said that I was upset and very concerned about the nepotism laws in the state of Texas. Okay, so if you want to get into those and find out what I'm talking about, there's a publication that's put out by the Attorney General of Texas. This was Greg Abbott. He's now our governor. I think Ken Paxton now is our Attorney General for the state. But it says 2012 Texas nepotism laws made easy. You can go online to the Attorney General's office of the state of Texas, and then it will enlighten you. Okay? Now what nepotism consists of is, in order to protect, and I think it goes back, I think I read somewhere in my searches that it goes back to about 1945, and Texas has, some of the best of the Public Information Act request systems and nepotism and so forth and so on. Now what nepotism is in the case of Coastal Bend College, Dr. Espinosa, Beatrice Espinosa, was hired in as president by the Board of Trustees. Okay. Then it wasn't too long after that her sister, Julia Garcia, had earned a master's degree in something. I still don't know what that was all about. But Dr. Espinosa hired her sister. Now I went up under Public Information Act request, and I took a look at all of those hiring documentation and so forth, and as far as I could tell, I'm just going to put it out straight to you up there in Beeville, folks, that was a railroad job. There were some very fine people with far advanced degrees over Sister Julia that were not considered and not hired by Coastal Bend College. Okay? Now that, according to the state laws, is not legal. Now I'm going to get into some of the other shenanigans that are going on up there. Okay? Now after Miss Julia Garcia, the sister of the president, was hired as the dean of workforce, and by the way, she is headquartered at the Pleasanton campus up there, not down there at Beeville. Okay, and I'm going to discuss these offshoot businesses that Dr. Espinosa and Dean Garcia have on the side in San Antonio, which is real handy to Pleasanton, folks, if you got businesses going on in San Antonio. Now, the reason that Dr. Garcia was relieved of her duty, well, I'll just put it this way: she was fired because the woman has a PhD in nursing, and she's also a family nurse practitioner, which is another very highly rated and highly sought after certificate. Now, when she hired on as director of nursing at Coastal Bend College, then she made it real clear that in order to keep her certificate going, then she has to go and practice in a clinic or in a medical situation, medical facility, for 2 days a month. So she cleared that. I've seen the paperwork. I've seen the handwritten scrawl on the contract and so forth, and the paperwork that stated that the college Coastal Bend College and President Espinosa had no problem with that. Okay? Now, after, I guess, there was a little tiff between Dean Garcia and Dr. Garcia, Eloisa, then that's when the dean decided that she would go ahead and put some pressure on and get rid of Dr. Garcia through her sister, the president. So what they concocted was they said, oh, by the way, Dr. Garcia is getting paid over there at the clinic, and she's also getting paid at the same time by Coastal Bend College. Now, since that was all right in the beginning of that position, then I don't see what could go wrong after that. But they went ahead and told Dr. Garcia that she'd have to pay that money back for about 6 months, I guess it was, before this happened, into her job there as director of nursing. Then she'd be fired. And they did, because Dr. Garcia said that it was in her contract and it was cleared before she went there, so why would she admit to something that didn't happen? Okay? So that's what happened. Now, after that, there have been some real legal issues. Now, what I was real concerned about were nepotism violations. And if this it indeed comes to pass, and I can prove that the nepotism does exist and did exist at Coastal Bend College, then I want to go back and I want to point the finger at all of those Board of Trustees members that were involved in the hiring of Dr. Espinosa, because it just ain't right, folks. And then I'm going to get into these, what I consider to be, I'll just say it, blockheads up there, attorneys that are trying to protect Coastal Bend College. Now, I had a hard time, too, at some of the board meetings and my request for this stuff to have the Beeville Picayune go ahead and publish anything about this. And it took me to write a couple of nasty letters, and I did write an editorial. I'll read that in a minute and tell you what I did. But why they wouldn't investigate nepotism. So I filed nepotism charges. Well, I didn't file charges. I requested investigations through both the local attorneys there, the district attorney for B County and the county attorney, okay, Mr. Knight. And I've got some information about that that'll curl your hair up in a minute too. Okay. Now, finally, after squawking, and signs went up. There's one that's over on a fence line by the Walmart and Tractor Supply Company over there, and the banner reads, "Nepotism violation filed. CBC president hired sister and family. Community unite." Next board meeting is February 18th, and there was nothing said about this at that meeting, okay? And this was from the taxpayers, and the Facebook that you can go on to if you would like, it's called Rebuild Coastal Bend College, and it's got an expose of all the people who have been having a time up there, being fired and mistreated and so forth by that Board of Regents, or Board of Trustees it's called. We've got a Board of Regents at Delmar, so if I refer to Coastal Bend as a Board of Regents, then you'll know I meant trustees. So I kicked up a fuss up there, and finally the B Picayune took me seriously and went and talked to the county attorney, one Mr. Knight. Okay? Now, on the front page of that February 25th newspaper, the Beeville Picayune, it says county attorney, that's Mr. Knight, okay? It says that CBC board's hiring is legal. So he's deemed it legal after he did that. Now, Mr. Aliseda, who is the district attorney up there for counties including Beeville, he wrote me one time and said that it was his prosecutorial discretion, and he didn't think that there were any hints of nepotism that went on in this hiring of the president's sister. And then, by the way, the sister hired her daughter, I think, as a secretary. So, and then I found there's nieces and nephews and the president's husband or whatever. There's another relation that's a contractor, and he's been building some stuff, I think, up at the Pleasanton campus. Okay? So something stinks real bad, folks. But here's what they quoted me. It says, "I will be seeking expert legal counsel and legal opinions from other Texas state agencies." Gerald A. Sansing. And I'm in the process of that, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm going to get to the bottom of it. Then we have the president of the Board of Trustees up there, Carol W. Losey. And what Mr. Losey said was, "I don't know why there are some individuals that want to keep us from getting back on track." Well, is that an admission, Mr. Losey, that you were off the track? Does that mean that maybe there's some concern that you people didn't get the proper legal advice on whether that was nepotism with Dr. Espinosa hiring her sister, Julia Garcia, for dean? I mean, what is it going to take, folks? I'm not real sure. So just wanted to let you know, and if you get a copy of this, or if you want to ask me questions, all you have to do is email me at gsansing, SANSING, at gmail.com. Let me know what information you want, and I'll be glad to do this. But the county attorney now has been quoted as saying that the Coastal Bend College Board's hiring was legal. Okay? I hate to dispute you there, Mr. Knight, but we're going to find out, as they say. Okay? Now, I did, in order to get that anything in the newspaper, I wrote a letter to the editor on the 23rd of January, after I went to the January 20th Board of Trustees meetings up there. I'm going to attend tomorrow. I don't know if this will be ready on YouTube tomorrow so people can know what's going on or not, but they've called a special meeting up there, probably thinking I was on spring break this past week, but next week's my spring break, so I'm going to be up there smiling at all of them at 5:30 tomorrow. That's March the 16th at Coastal Bend College. But I told them in here, I'll just summarize it, I told them I was real disappointed by the lack of reporting of extremely local issues, and particularly nepotism at Coastal Bend College. So, and then, I'm a taxpayer, folks, and like I say, I spend a lot of time as the president of the Corpus Christi Taxpayers Association. My family's been fighting for freedom of speech and so forth and so on in this country since the early 1770s, if that'll give you some indication, and before that in some of the Indian wars. Okay, so got a long history, and my father was probably one of the most dedicated, highly decorated fighter pilots coming out of the Air Force after World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Okay, so it's been instilled in me, ladies and gentlemen. So I wrote that, and that got no response. Okay, except from the editor, and he said that everything had been reported up to that stage, and it had not. I hate to differ with him. And then there was another one that Rosa Pedraza wrote, and it was published. I forget which edition of the BPICU this came out in, but it says this was I don't have a date on it. I think it was in response to the 25th over there. And this one was also consequently published. But it says, in her thing, it says, the article only mentioned the alleged nepotism violation for Dr. Espinosa, hiring her sister, Dean Garcia. What about the three nieces of Dr. Espinosa, whom she employed at the college in full, part-time, and or temporary capacities? One of the nieces is a direct report to Dr. Espinosa's sister, Dean Garcia. What about the alleged nepotism violation in which Dr. Espinosa, awarded her brother, an independent contractor, a contract to perform work on the Pleasanton campus? What about the allegation that President Espinosa and newly hired VP of Student Services, Dr. Chavez, are somehow related? The nepotism and ethical questions deserve a legitimate inquiry. And then she takes Mr. Knight to task when he said that there was no illegalities there. And she goes back to the Attorney General. Now, several of those people with Rebuild Coastal Bend College up there, folks, are just a little bit upset about what's going on as a taxpayer up there. They're paying the freight for Coastal Bend College. So what's happened is, Mr. Knight quotes some stuff that it doesn't apply. Okay, I've read the Attorney General's letters too, the advisory number 156 from 1978. Okay, and that no longer applies according to a phone call or two that these people made to the Attorney General's office and in the nepotism department. So she's taken, a little bit of different approach to this. She's just calling up there to find out what's going on. Now, another thing that concerned me is I got some email sent to me about a business that's going on, okay? And it says that JULIBEA apostrophe S Small Business Consulting Incorporated, San Antonio, Texas. And it has a person's name, Beth Cruz, on it, and it says is the president of Julie B's, I guess that's the way they pronounce it, Small Business Consulting Inc., San Antonio. Okay, and then it goes on. She is connected to other officers through these corporate roles. Okay, one of the top connections is Julia T. Garcia, that's also known as the Dean of Workforce for Coastal Bend College. And like I say, her office is up there in Pleasanton, which is real handy, real close to the business. They've got a map here on Cherry Ridge Street in San Antonio. Okay? Now, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, folks. I'm just telling you what I have uncovered. I'm not making any judgment as to legalities, ethics, or anything else. I'm just informing you fine folks up there in Beeville that support Coastal Bend College along with me, because I do pay state taxes and there's state and federal money going in there. And then here's one on Julia Garcia, director for Julie B's Small Business Consulting in San Antonio, Texas. And it says, Julia T. Garcia is the director of Julie B's Small Business Consulting, and so forth and so on. Julie B's Small Business Consulting filed a domestic for-profit corporation in the state of Texas on Friday, July 18, 2008. Okay? Julia T. Garcia is connected with other officers in these corporate roles. Okay? So it explains a little bit of that. And here's another map, and it goes through, it explains the business and what all else is going on. Okay? And then we have a Julie B's Small Business Consulting. And it says here, key people, Julia Garcia, that's the Dean of Workforce, and then Beatrice Espinosa, small business, okay? And Julia T. Garcia is also a registered agent of the company. So I guess there are two Julias, as far as I can tell. Maybe that's the niece or whatever, okay? But it gives you some information about what's going on there. And then here's another one, and here it is again. You got Julia T. Garcia or Julia Garcia and Beatrice Espinosa, and this is the Small Business Consulting. Okay, all right, and it's all there in black and white. It's on the airways, so to speak. Okay. And then let's see, Julia Garcia serves as director and has interests in other corporate entities, like Tribe Value Specialty Foods, LLC, located in San Antonio, Texas. Beatrice Espinosa is the director, president of Julie B's Small Business Consulting. Okay. So, Dr. Garcia, if you were paid over there by that clinic and that was cleared, evidently at the beginning of your employment with Coastal Bend College, then what in the world is going on at this stage of the game? Okay? Now I've got some other stuff here that I want to mention, and I know it's going to be slanted towards Coastal Bend College. And if you want to find out about some other shows, I'm going to give you this show and next some information about how to go on YouTube and look up what's going on in Corpus Christi. That's a 30-minute show I do for taxpayers as the president of Corpus Christi Taxpayers Association. And I'm involved in a state taxpayers association also. But here's the Attorney General. Now here's Mr. Michael J. Knight, who's the county attorney, and he took some shots at me in a letter after he finally found out I was very serious. I went to the Attorney General's office to ask them why this clown hadn't put anything out. So he said to me, "Thank you for dropping the note off to my office on January 30th, 2015. You ask a fair question which deserves a fair answer, notwithstanding the way in which you have gone about it." Now, I don't know what the hell that means, but, you know, I can't please everybody. I usually wind up making certain people uncomfortable and fearful. It's not my intention, folks. All I want is the truth. Basically, you allege that Coastal Bend College violated state nepotism laws as contained in Section 573 of the Texas Government Code by the above referenced hiring. The short answer is that no violation of state nepotism status or statutes has occurred. The nepotism states, and he goes on down. Now, I don't know if he contacted the state and asked them about some of this stuff that he cited a 1978 ruling by the Attorney General, but I've heard that that does not apply, and that's the one that the nepotism attorneys up there at the state indicated to the some of the people involved in rebuild Coastal Bend College. But this is significant. This was sent to me. Now, back in January 9th of 2013, Attorney General Greg Abbott sent this to Mr. Knight. Okay? He's the county attorney, B County on St. Mary's in Beeville, Texas. Dear Mr. Knight, now this I think will go to show you that maybe the guy didn't do his homework, and maybe we still should, as taxpayers, request. And I'm going to find out legally what pressure I'm going to have to do to put more of an investigation on than just write me a letter saying that he doesn't like me very much. I don't care, Mr. Knight, and I know you watch this. Okay. You ask whether certain information is subject to required public disclosure under the Public Information Act, Chapter 552 of the Government Code. Your request was assigned ID number so-and-so. The B County's Attorney Office received a request for all criminal cases from 2009 to the date of the request in which the county attorney was prosecutor and the case was either rejected, uncharged, or dismissed, and documents in which the defendants in the requested criminal cases made a donation or donations to the Coastal Bend College, here we go again, or any of the college's affiliated organizations. You claim that the requested information is accepted from disclosure under Section 552.108 of the Government Code. We have considered the exception you claim. Now here, this is key here. We must address the county attorney's obligations under 552.301 of the Government Code, okay, which prescribes the procedural obligations that a governmental body must follow in asking this office to decide whether requested information is accepted from public disclosure. Okay? Section 552.301E requires the government body to submit to the Attorney General no later than 15 business days after the date of the receipt of the request, one, written comments stated why the governmental body's claimed exceptions apply and the information that it seeks to withhold, and two, a copy of the written request for information, three, signed statements of the date on which the governmental body received the request or evidence sufficient to establish that date, and four, the specific information that the government body seeks to withhold or representative samples of if the information is voluminous. Okay? Now, it says here, you're supposed to require some information under that. Okay. However, as of the date of this ruling, we have not received written comments as to why the stated exception applies to the requested information or any responsive information. Consequently, we find the county attorney failed to comply with the procedural requirements mandated by Section 552.301. And then it goes on with a little bit more of an admonishment of what he did not do. So how do we know that he has done a decent job down here investigating nepotism? And then we find out he's quoting some previous rulings from 1978 that were not overturned according to the Nepotism Division of the Attorney General's Office of the state of Texas. Okay? So what are we going to do from there, guys? Okay, so I've got all these folders here, and then I'm going to go to the state auditors and so forth. Now, another problem that has happened up at Coastal Bend College was in the Beeville Picayune back in August 20th of 2014. It says CBC Board Espinosa present balanced budget. Well, I found out through just listening up there at some of the meetings and looking at some paperwork that I guess the previous president had run, and I mean there were millions of dollars that wound up missing up there in one form or another without knowing the full story. Okay. Now, in addition to that, what we have was, I witnessed this at a meeting. This was a letter that was passed out from Patillo Brown Hill LLP, Certified Public Accountants, Business Consultants, and this was dated December 19th, 2014, not that long ago. Coastal Bend College, comments, recommendations, and management responses. And this was we have audited the financial statements of Coastal Bend College for the year ended August 31st and have issued our report on December 19th. Okay? Now, I've had a CPA read this document, and he's very well, very seasoned and so forth and so on. He knows what he's talking about. MBA, bachelor's degree in accounting, been a CPA for many, many years, and knows his way around bookwork. And he said that if anybody had a report that sounded like this, then he would be terribly embarrassed. That is not a flattering report on the finances and the bookkeeping and stuff at Coastal Bend College. Okay. All right, that brings me to the following. So, I hope that'll help you guys and gals out there as to what's going on. Now, I'm going to get back to Del Mar College, and I will just state very clearly that I have been following along with that CPA friend of mine, okay, all of the goings on at Del Mar College. Okay. Now, what we've got over there is we've got a horror story going on with what we call accounting irregularities. Del Mar College, since 2007, has written off as bad debts and so forth and so on, $2,838,000 some odd dollars. Now, folks, that's a hell of a lot of money, and you know where that money comes from, don't you? And the reason that I'm interested in this is I go straight back to I am a taxpayer, and I pay dearly for Del Mar College to keep its doors open and educate students. And I hope that we can get away from this golly gee whiz garbage in the meantime. But I'm really, really very curious as to how Texas A&M University Kingsville owed Del Mar College $54,000, and Del Mar College wrote it off as a bad debt. How did the U.S. Navy owe Del Mar College $42,000, and they wrote that off as a bad debt? The local Coastal Bend Council of Governments was about, I think, $89,000 or something like that, and how in the world can Del Mar write that off? Now, these bad debts seem to correspond with what's called a conversion in an accounting program. Okay, you go from one system to another, and you have that conversion, and you hope everything shuffles out and the conversion goes well and all the numbers add up to the penny. Well, they didn't. And now we're blaming some of this lost information where files are just disappeared, and we're blaming that, folks, on on the bad conversion. Was there anybody fired over that conversion? Okay, that's what normally happens, I understand, in the accounting business if things go wrong. Now, another thing that happened was, and it's sitting here, and this is today's issue, and it's in the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. It says, state politics, keeping sunshine on public information is an ongoing fight. And it's by Dave Montgomery, special to the Star-Telegram. So if you want to go in, you can probably get that paper, or you can go subscribe and get it. I think I'm going to subscribe because this whole week is based on the fact that we have Public Information Act requests that go unheeded, and it's a real pain in the neck, as I can tell you, to get information out of Del Mar College and or out there from Coastal Bend College. I got an unhappy cat in here. Okay, it says in here, under a shot of the state Capitol building, okay? As public transparency advocates nationwide observe Sunshine Week, Texas can lay claim to what is considered one of the strongest public information tools in the country, a 42-year-old law that has enabled journalists and frustrated taxpayers alike to unearth tons of data exposing the needs and misdeeds of government entities. And that's by Ashley Landis of the Associated Press. Now in this issue, and it came out today, it does state in here very carefully and so forth. It says in 2014, Del Mar College in Corpus Christi initially gave a jaw-dropping estimate of $26 million in labor and printing costs when local CPA Edward Bennett requested what the college said would have been more than 100 million pages. The two sides settled on a scaled-down document retrieval that was made available for free. So I'm still, and I can't get this under Public Information Act request, nor can Mr. Bennett, but we're still trying to figure out, folks, who in the world came up with $26.7 million estimate for public information. Okay? It's unbelievable. And then I think there's another one in here that mentioned Del Mar College. Let's see if I can find that right quick. Yeah, here it is. Okay. It says Bennett, the Corpus Christi CPA and a member of the local Taxpayers Association, that's my group, okay, said he lodged his request with Del Mar College in September to look into what he said were write-offs and debt. In September 11th, or in a September 11th response, college officials said it would cost $26.7 million to print out 105 million pages of documents, along with labor charges, to make the printouts and redacted sensitive student information. They also offered a less costly option of letting Bennett sit with the programmer and view the electronic data for $60,508 to cover the 4,032 hours of labor. Okay? Bennett said he originally considered the response a roadblock to keep him from investigating the school's finances. But Claudia Jackson, the school's executive director for strategic communications and external relations, said in a telephone interview that the school is committed to public disclosure. Bennett's request, she said, was very, very detailed, resulting in the astronomical price when the 10-cent per page charges and labor costs were calculated. Jackson said the school presented a smaller alternative package of records at no charge. Bennett said he accepted the material but still plans to pursue the inquiry. Okay? I mean, that's in today's Fort Worth Star-Telegram, folks. So we've gone at least statewide, national. I think AP is going to pick up on that too. Now, another problem I have with Del Mar College is we have, and this was written, disappearing Del Mar College assets. I guess I should be the one to claim that back in August of 2013, I'm the one that filed for information after I went to a workshop, and it was said that we're going to have to write off a bunch of money because student debt and so forth and so on, and I got real curious and started asking questions about that, and that's when we uncovered the, all the problems that we've got at Del Mar College. And then Mr. Bennett on February 15th asked for several things. We got some of this stuff, but what happens is we have Mrs. Tammy McDonald over there at Del Mar, who's the Executive Director of Human Resources and Administration and the College Public Information Act Officer. Okay? Now, the woman's not an attorney, folks, okay? She claims to have an MBA and know what Mr. Bennett's asking for. But if she has an MBA and knew what he was asking for, then why in the world did they settle out for nothing after they claimed a $26.7 million charge for it? I mean, things just don't add up, folks. I'm sorry to say, okay? So now, on that request, what happened was that's February 15th. So 10 working days later, early in March, we're supposed to get that. Then she said we need additional time to assemble responsive documents. We anticipate having a response to you no later than Friday, March the 13th. Then just the other day, that's been extended out to March the 25th because they don't have time to get things done. Now, I don't think that's what the letter of the law is or the intent of the law under Public Information Act request, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Now, as far as another thing went, I've been accused of insubordination and some, other things, inappropriate and so forth and so on by my department chair, and that's in response to the golly gee whiz activities over there and giving away majors microbiology classes to people that want to do search for fungi from an Apollo mission. Okay, I mean, give me a break, folks. Okay, I explained at the beginning of this what my background is, and I know when research is bona fide, and I know when it's not, and I'll leave it at that. So what happened was I was concerned about that class that's normally taught in the fall. I teach a majors microbiology class. It usually will fill without a whole bunch of people squawking about not being able to get into it at 24 students. Now, the biology majors and pre-med and so forth number at Del Mar cannot support running that class more than once a year. Okay? Now, I have certain prerequisites for that class, like chemistry and biology 1406 majors, biology, cell molecular, and so forth. And I stick to that. I'm not going to have any student come in that has not had the prereqs because I'm not doing them any favors. They're not going to fare well the way I teach the class in a totally, completely traditional manner. Okay? I don't golly gee whiz anything, folks. I know what it takes to get people into medical school. I was associated with the University of Illinois Medical School on that research postdoc. I took over classes for medical professors, the medical school professors in microbiology and biochemistry. Okay? So, and if they had enough faith in me to do that as a non-teaching faculty member up there, to call me in for specialty lectures and so forth and so on, and instill the research aspects of that, then I know what I'm talking about. I mean, it sounds egotistical. I'm sorry if you feel that way, but it's not meant to be, folks. But I know what the hell I'm doing, and I've been in the research business a long time. So I know what it takes. Now, what happened was a golly gee whiz professor, okay, was granted permission to teach that class in the spring. Now, it barely made with 14 students out of the 24. So you're paying a guy to teach a class that's 10 students shy. Some of those students, and I can document this out there for all you people in doubting land, that many of those students did not have the prerequisites that's set up in the catalog for my class, okay, and for the class, no matter who teaches it. Now, it does say with that they can be waived with the permission of the professor. Well, if you try to run a class and you spend a bunch of money trying to get that class going, okay, then you're going to do whatever it takes to get those students in there. Okay, I think one of them's still a high school student. Okay, now, so Mr. Bennett went and asked for the following concerning that class. I've got 5 minutes left. Through my rights under Texas Public Information Act, so and so and so and so. Number one, any and all documents, which means letters, emails, notes, memos, telephone logs, etc., associated with the justification and establishment of an out-of-sequence biology course, Biology 24-21 in the springtime, okay, in the spring semester of 2015. So I want to see that justification, and so does Mr. Bennett, because this is taxpayers' money, folks. Okay, I understand that there's a whole bunch of money spent to run that class. Okay, and then number two, any and all documents and then letters and so forth, emails and purchase orders associated with the cost of equipment and supplies that have been or will be purchased for the conduction of the course. Now let me stop right there. I've saved that school an estimated $120,000 a year because I go over and I make up all the growth media, solutions, chemicals, and set up labs myself over there. And that's what our former lab director had indicated it would cost if I quit doing that on my time. That's Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, evenings, and weekends and holidays. Okay? So now everything's being purchased, and I want to find out how much. Okay? Number three, any and all documents indicating the total student enrollment of any existing documentation that all students have completed the suggested course prerequisites. I'm concerned about the quality of the class. Even though it's going to be a golly gee whiz, let's search for fungi from Apollo 11, you know, I guess they're going to go into the boots of the astronauts and look for athlete's foot fungus. I don't know what the hell that's all about. Okay? And then four, any and all documents, letters, and so forth and so on related to the hiring of a teaching assistant for preparing and conducting the laboratory component of Biology 24-21 springtime class and the cost that the cost of that hiring for the semester. Okay? Now, what we get back from Mrs. McDonald over here, who's our PIA coordinator or officer, then what she one more time says, and it should have come in early March, that information is readily available over there, but she wanted to put that off and we anticipate having a response to you no later than Friday, March the 13th. This is after she says that they need additional time for this. And then we get another letter, Mr. Bennett did, he's the requestor on that one, that states it's going to be March the 25th. Okay? And here's another one from HR that still burns me up, was the reference to the gas chamber at the holiday concert by a faculty member over there, and HR says, oh, that's humorous, you know, we're not going to do anything about that, we're not going to talk to the man and shut this crap down. You know, he can make anti-Semitic remarks all he wants, and the reference to the gas chamber was humorous. It's all meant to be humor. Okay? I've discussed that previously. And then I'll end it in the last 2 minutes with this one. Okay? Now, so all I can say, folks, is we have a Taxpayers Association person who was concerned about the accounting irregularities, and she went and talked to, it's Miss Jean Perkins, and I have her permission to do this and say this. She was talking to Mayor Nelda Martinez about how disastrous it appeared to be over there with the financial end and the accounting end at Del Mar College. And then Mayor Martinez went over and had a chat with the school. And then Ms. Perkins, out of the blue, gets this from College Relations. Okay? And I've mentioned Claudia Jackson. She's the Executive Director of Strategic Communication and Government Relations. Okay? And she sent this letter to Ms. Perkins and then copied Dr. Mark Escamilla, President of Del Mar College, and Mayor Nelda Martinez. So I've got just about enough time to do this. And by the way, in addition to that, we get all of these golly gee whiz stuff back from previous reports. She also, Ms. Jackson, included Government Finance Officers Association Award for Outstanding Achievement and popular annual financial reporting, whatever that means. And this is a company where you pay dues and then they give you certificates to make you look good. Okay, this was attached to that to Ms. Perkins. It says, as promised, I'm providing for you publications that detail 3 different levels of budget and financial information for Del Mar College, reflecting the latest year for which our records are closed and appropriate audits completed. You'll find a report from the independent auditing firm Collier, Johnson & Woods, PC on such and such a page. I'm also providing a copy of one of the awards Del Mar College has received for producing an outstanding popular annual financial report. Okay? We have similar accolades for the other two documents as well. These awards are already framed and displayed in our administrative offices. Well, you paid dues to that thing, Claudia. All right, I'm not going to put the banner at the end. I'm just going to go ahead and let this thing run out. I've got less than 6 or 10 seconds left, and as soon as that thing goes off, I'll turn the camera off and bid you a good evening. Thank you.